So we're going to be here today to help you connect your pages together, and then secondary, you will stay on and we will connect your Schoology to your gradebook. Perfect. This is all great. Love to see you all here. This is exciting. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat and we will try to answer them as best as we can. And then you can obviously message Eric and Sarah directly. That's Eric Lorber and Sarah McClure. If you want me to see it while I'm presenting, you'll have to put it in the public chat, or you can private message me, but it might take longer for me to answer if it's private versus public. So my teammates can help answer some of those public ones. So make sure you have your Schoology open. Secondary, make sure you have your Power Teacher Pro, your Gradebook. Both of those, if you don't know where to go, are accessible through Clever. It is a white icon with a white background. If I go too fast at any point, please just tell me to slow down or tell me to pause. Some of you may have already done what I'm covering today, so this will be a good point to check and see what you're doing, or maybe you can help others around you that are struggling with what we're doing. And let's go ahead and get started. So let me change over to the slide deck. So I'm going to share this in the chat for everyone. If you are not able to access the chat, I do have a bit.ly there. So if you put in that HTTPS, that whole bit.ly right there, make sure you use a capital S on Schoology Grade. That will get you access to this slide deck. There are a ton of resources in this slide deck. We'll go ahead and give you a minute to get it and get on there or share it out.
Okay, what are they wanting us to do?
It may not be listed as Power Teacher. It's probably going to be listed as Teacher Gradebook. That might be how we labeled it, and it's probably going to be the FWCS icon. I see lots of you getting into the slide deck. That's fantastic. So while you're getting into the slide deck, I'm going to start talking about what we're doing, because I know elementary, you're going to move on with Amelia here in a little bit. So in our old Power School system, many teachers created their own page and then you linked your rosters to the one page. Well, with Schoology, you have to use the pre-created rosters that link to your course ID. And that's how your students are added and deleted with our sync at the end of the day. So what we're going to do today is show you how you can go from teaching the same content 6 times a day and having 6 pages to rolling it up into one page. So an example would be you teach 6th grade math 4 periods. That's technically 4 Schoology pages, but we're going to show you how to condense it down to one page and flip between the different rosters. If you are missing courses or classes, there are multiple reasons for that. One could be you're actually a co-teacher. Co-teachers have to be added by the teacher of record. If you have no students showing in your roster, your course will not come over. And the third reason is if you are not actually tied to a grade scale, your course will not come to Schoology. And so in those instances, your tech coordinator would be happy to help you figure out your best course of action. So we do have a video on what we're covering if you need to come back later and redo this. Then we have typed directions here. I know not everyone learns the same way. Not everyone likes videos. Not everyone likes slide decks. So we do have typed directions so you can have pictures and check mark the different directions. So here are examples of what I mean when I say you can go from multiple Schoology pages to one. So here's a biology teacher at Northrop. She teaches biology 1 for 6 different periods a day. So in her Schoology, she would see 6 classes and she teaches the same content in all 6 of those classes. So what she is able to do is take these 6 pages and connect them all into one Schoology page. So she can just add her content to one page and hit all 6 classes versus having to go into each and every single individual course. Here's an elementary example. So here's a phys ed teacher. If you think about it, you have 6 content or grades you have to hit, kindergarten through 5th grade, so that's 6. If you have 3 teachers per grade, so that's 3 kindergartens, that's 3 first grades, that's 3 second grades, that starts to add up to about 28 pages. Or if you do 6 times 3, it's 18. It just depends on what you have. I just saw someone put, I have 27 classes. So what you can do is you can link per grade together. So you can go from your 18 classes down to 6 classes. So that's what we're going to show you to do today. Now, not everyone falls into this boat because remember, I said it's all tied to your course ID. So here is a course ID where each section of this ELL teacher has a different course ID. So unfortunately, this teacher would have to have all these pages and cannot condense it together. Another example would be in a lot of our related art classes, we can have combinations of grades, like in PE, you could combine 7-8 students or even 6 through 8 students. Well, the state still makes us use a different course ID for each grade, even though you have them all combined in the same class period. So the state requires us to keep all of those separate, so you would not be able to connect those courses together. So I'm showing and talking about a lot of this, but what I'm going to do is we're actually going to take the time and dive into your sections together. So I'm not just going to talk, we're actually going to do a little bit of work time. So at this point, we're actually going to transition over to Schoology. So I'll give you a second to go ahead and pull that up.
Click it again.
So once we're in Schoology, we're going to use this black navigation bar at the top. Because we can't see our sections to link them together here, most of you probably see a bunch of blue tiles. So we're going to hit courses in the black bar. You can get to Schoology through Clever or go to FWCS.schoology.com. So in your Clever, you're going to hit courses. And then it's going to pop down and it's going to look very similar to what we saw. All this is your first 12 classes, which you can rearrange this at a later date. So in this pop down from courses, we're going to come over here to the right and select my courses. So at the black bar, I hit courses. And then when I got the pop down, I selected my courses. In this view, you should start to see your current courses listed together. So I'll give everyone about 30 seconds to try to pull this up. So this is where you will see your sandboxes or any courses you are a student in, you've been added to, or manually rostered. Some of our elementaries, they may not have turned on your courses yet because your rosters are still changing constantly. But hopefully most of you should see it. And if you do not see any and you know you should be in there, it could be they recently added you. It could be you have no students in your course. If there's no students, there will be no Schoology course. Or you are a co-teacher. You are not the teacher of record. Co-teachers must be manually added by the teacher of record. Okay, so in here, you're going to see your list of courses. So here is that biology course that I just showed you that had the 6 sections. Notice she went from a list of 6 sections, and now it's all listed in one big hyperlink separated by commas. This is going to be our end goal today. We are not able to rename our courses. So this right here, your course title, this pulls directly from PowerSchool SIS. And then the sections, this comes directly from how your rosters are built. We cannot change these. They are listed by class period. So that is why we have you creating your course icons to make them unique to you to help your students identify their courses. So here's an example of a teacher over at Anthus. He teaches 2 courses. He has the curriculum 1 and the guidance 1. He may have them at the same time. If you notice, they're both period 1, but they're technically 2 different course IDs. So this teacher, he is able to take these 2 sections and roll it up into 1 page. He's able to take these 2 sections and roll them into 1 page. So then that means he can individually assign work. He can start to group students by course roster. Here is a middle school ELL teacher. So she has her level 1 section. She just has 1. But then here is another one. And she, if you look, she took 1, 2 sections and rolled them into 1 page. One second, I'm going to unlink a section. I forgot to do this. So as you can see, even though I linked this section earlier, I'm able to unlink it. So if I made a mistake, I can come back and unlink it. Okay, here we go. So here's another example of a teacher, 4 periods, same subject, same course ID, so it's going to be the same content. She is able to take all 4 of these and condense it down to 1 page. It potentially could mess up your sections when you add them together now. So you might have to go in and do a little bit of cleanup. Yeah. And if you have done any grading, it will wipe out any grading as well. Okay, so now we're ready to link our sections. So all you have to do, if you have a section that does this, so I know I have a bunch of elementary teachers on here. So you need to find one of your sections like 1st grade, 2nd grade, and you're going to see all the teachers that you teach in that grade. So we're going to condense it from like this teacher from 4 classes down to 1. You can pick any of your sections. So if you see 2 sections, you see 6, doesn't matter. You just pick one and hit the gear with the caret. So pick any section that you're able to link, and then you're going to choose link existing section. So then it's a 3-step process that is very quick and easy. So if you notice, here is that section I hit the gear on. I want to take all the other sections and link them with this one. So you should be able to check mark all of your other sections. If you have some grayed out, there is a reason for that. That could be you have a student duplicated in one of your rosters. I was working with a middle school art teacher, and she had a student in her 2nd period and 7th period that took her course twice. So the system thinks that's an error and tells her she can't link her sections. So that one is the student needs to be removed from one of the rosters. The other option is, if you notice here, I have section 1 for period 1 and section 11 for period 1. When your courses are built, your administrators create a SPED section and a Gen Ed section. And then they take those SPED kids and add them to your Gen Ed section. But unfortunately, when they did that change, it did not clean up Schoology. So teachers have to check their rosters. Make sure your SPED kids show up in your Gen Ed section. So if you can confirm they are in your Gen Ed section, you can delete your SPED sections. Your SPED sections tend to be a bigger number, like this one, it's a double digit. Some of you, it might be hundreds. It's definitely going to be signified similar, but slightly different. So this teacher would be able to delete section 11, section 33, and section 66. Then she will be able to link her sections. For reference, we do have notes on this on slide 6 in our slide deck. So I'm going to come back to this teacher, hit the gear, link existing section. Check mark all of your sections. You want all of your sections together because this means you're teaching the same content. When you've selected them all, hit next. So this one is, I've done it too many times today, so I can't do it. So I'm going to choose a different course. So I'm going to help this teacher here delete her SPED sections. So now she has 3 class periods. Now I will link her existing sections. I will check them all. Select next. Then you get to step 2. Step 2 asks you to download your grades. So this is why we're doing this now. We are going to do this now because if you do it later, it deletes any grades you have input. So that's the purpose of doing this at the beginning of the quarter or semester. Just choose standard CSV. It's going to make you download a file. The file will be empty. It doesn't matter because we have done no grading. If you have overlapping students and courses, I would check with your admin that does the scheduling, or reach out to your district technology coordinator and we can dive into your courses and see the issue and give you a suggestion on fixing it. So download and next. So there's that file. I downloaded it. Some of you, it may automatically open. You don't need it. You can exit out. And this is just the final confirmation. So here's that teacher, 3 sections, and then link sections. You cannot link multiple courses together. If you notice, these courses all have separate course IDs. So 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, so on. Each grade will have its own course ID. We will have to dive into your courses. So if you could put your last name and courses you're wanting us to look at, we can look into there. If you look at our slide deck on slide 7, here is the list of district technology coordinators if you need to reach out to your coordinator to help dive into your courses. So I'm going to go ahead and give you time to start linking your sections because I know with elementary and some of you in middle school and high school, you're going to have a bunch of different courses you need to be doing this process for. So I'm going to go ahead and give you time to do this. For pre-K, it could be they're just not in there yet. It also could be that there's no grade scale tied to that course. So you may be one of those special buckets that have to manually create a course and add and delete your students. I'm going to write your name down, Emily, and I'm going to dive into this for you. But I believe it's because you do not actually have a grade scale. Yes. So Emily, we'll just dive into it and fix it. We will contact the system administrator who does the coding for the program. And one final thing is what we're doing now with the section linking, you have to do section linking before you connect your gradebook to Schoology or Schoology to PowerTeacher Pro. Elementary, that's not a problem. You don't have that connection. Secondary, you do. So make sure you do this section linking first. The other thing is if you teach a year-long course, you have to do this at the beginning of each year for your courses. If you teach semester courses like high school and some middle school, each semester, what we just did with the section linking, you're going to have to do it. If you teach quarterly courses, so every quarter you have new kids, you have to do what we are doing at the beginning of each quarter. At tolls, we are going to have to dive into your rosters to see how it works with those grade bands combined, because I'm beginning to think you might be like those 6, 7, 8 combined classes where there's 3 different course IDs. So you're going to have 3 courses really for one class with how your grade bands work. I'm going to make a note to dive into those and figure it out. And then I will get with Shannon to get the best message across. If you do any removing of sections every night, if it's tied to PowerSchool SIS, it will re-download that section. So even if you try to clean it up and delete it and it's still in SIS, it will resync every night when we sync at 11 o'clock. So yes, I will work on tools to figure out that one, and I will get to Shannon and get that information shared. Okay, so elementary, that is all I have for you. Secondary, you're going to stay here, but I have Amelia with me, and she has a message for all of my elementary folks.
Hi, everybody. This actually goes for all teachers. Once secondary you're finished, you'll click on this link as well to join us with some collaboration, but I'll go ahead and meet with elementary first and get them started. So I'm going to go ahead and put that Zoom link in the chat for everybody to go to. So elementary teachers, you can go ahead and go here now. And we will see you there in a few minutes. And Rachel, you've got the link there in case secondary needs it again. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you. Sorry, I lost my mute button. Even as tech people, we can lose stuff. Yeah, Tom, I think you have the SPED sections like Jenny French did. So all you have to do is delete your SPED sections, which is the bigger number, and then you should be able to link your rosters. Okay, so that was the easy part of what we're doing today. The other part's not too hard either, but it has some steps that we need to follow.
If we're not able to link our integrated classes right now, we're not going to be able to do the next part, correct?
What do you mean you can't? Is it because you have SPED sections?
I have my fifth period is an integrated class. I'm only showing one section for fifth period, but it will not link, even though it's grouped under the same one. I can't link that to my academic classes.
Okay. So yeah, you won't be able to do the linking, but you might want to know how to do the connection. So you might want to see that connection. If not, you're going to have to watch a pre-recorded session or work with your coordinator. I leave it up to you.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to dive into this course I just linked. So this course went from 3 sections down to 1. So when I go into the members, students can see members as well. Yes, you should be able to move along, but I would not do the full gradebook connection because when you can link, it's going to break it all and you have to redo it anyway, which is why we told you to section link first. It's just we have those small pockets with the way schedules are made that we're having to go in and help manually fix it. Okay, so I'm in her roster. So here's her first period. If I select this, I can see her other sections. So even though I rolled it into one page, it still keeps them separated by the different rosters. So this means I'm still able to just assign work to each individual section. And then within those sections of my members, I can create my grading groups for my small groups to assign to those small pockets of kids in each class. So you're able to do all of your different groupings still. Okay, so we're going to connect Schoology. So when you create an assignment in Schoology, such as a collaborative slide deck, or maybe you have them turn in an essay, or you have them do a CAMI activity through Schoology, you can tie that assignment back to the gradebook. Not all of your grading is going to be done in here because we still use Power Teacher Pro. To get to members, you need to be in one of your courses. So once you're in, we're going to do something first. We're going to come over here to grade setup. You have to tell Schoology how to grade your work. So if you think about in Power Teacher Pro, we created categories for you. You need to do something similar in Schoology. So that means let's actually just pull one up. I'm going to refresh this page. Perfect. Power Teacher Pro. Here we go. I'll pull it down. Let me do a new share. Here we go. So here is a teacher's Power Teacher Pro. When I get into grading, there's categories. So remember when you added an assignment to Power Teacher Pro, you had to categorize that assignment, whether it was classwork, project, quiz, or test. If you're high school, it was formative, summative. It's still the same for high school, formative and summative. Now, some teachers deleted some of these categories while others added more. High school, you cannot do that, but middle school has that option. So you might want to look in your Power Teacher Pro and come to grading and categories to see what categories you have. So this teacher here has 6 grading categories. So that means in her Schoology, she's going to have to create a minimum of 6 grading categories to connect to her Power Teacher Pro. And she can see here are her 6 grading categories. Now, don't forget high school. All you have to do is formative and summative. So if you just want to create formative and summative, you can, but you can also get creative. So here is that biology teacher. I'm going to show you how she connected her formative and summative. These are her categories that she created, and she divided them 2 ways. She either connected them to formative or summative. So she was able to do 3 categories to formative and 3 to summative. So think about that and how you want to do it, but definitely reference your Power Teacher Pro. So here is that course that we just section linked. On my left, navigation, I'm going to come to grade setup. So on the left, grade setup. So this first part is your categories. You probably have none here. This teacher has already added some. To add them, you just hit add. And then you type it in. Choose points, because remember, Schoology to Power Teacher Pro, they talk through points. You can keep drop lowest at a 0 unless you want to change that. That is, if you know how to use it, then you can use it. If not, don't worry about it. Keep it at 0. So I'm going to create my category, and there it is. So this is the first part. Create your grading categories in Schoology. So when you create a discussion, you create an assignment, an assessment, what grading category does it fall under? So when you send that assignment to Power Teacher Pro, which one of these categories does it sync with? So I'm going to give you this time now to go ahead and try to create your categories. And I'm here to answer questions as you're creating them. I'll give you a couple minutes to create those categories. This is not the sandbox. This is a teacher's actual course that's synced from SAS. You can pretend to do this in your sandbox, but you will get an error when we try to connect to Power Teacher Pro. We've had teachers say, well, what if I want to change my categories here? High school cannot, but middle school, you do have that flexibility. In Power Teacher Pro, you can edit, delete, add from with here, but it will not show up instantly in Schoology. There is a lag in their communication, and it can take up to 4 hours for the 2 systems to talk together. Yes, high school, you need to think about summative and formative, and you can get creative like this teacher did and say, I know I need to connect with formative and summative, but this is what I want to call my categories. But if you just want to be straight up and call it formative and summative, just have the 2 categories, Absolutely, you can. When we're creating the categories, this is my math class. Now, if I'm a teacher and I have 3 different courses I teach, I might teach creative writing and then I might teach just language arts. Those are 2 separate courses. So I might need to link those sections if I can, but then also each course I teach in, I need to do my grade setup. So this might be my math course, but I might also teach science in a section. I need to go do that grade setup in my science course as well. Just because you did it in one grade book doesn't mean it does it to the other. But this grade setup will link to all 3 periods of this teacher. So in Schoology, if you create your own categories here, you connect them to formative and summative. But in your Power Teacher Pro at high school, you should not be able to edit this at all. This should be locked. They may have locked them for middle school, but as far as I know, teachers were able to edit it earlier. I unfortunately only have view access, so I can only view a teacher's page. I actually cannot make any changes in their Power Teacher Pro. I live through teachers on Power Teacher Pro. You are the experts. So once you have your categories set up, we're going to stay in this section for just a little bit longer. Natalie, we will get to that in about 4 minutes. So we have our categories. If you scroll down, you're going to see Gradebook Scale under Final Grade Settings. Some of you, it might be set to numeric, but if you drop down, you should see 2 grade scales. Middle school is just the FWCS grade scale. High school needs the one labeled high school. If you are a middle school teacher and you teach a high school credit course, make sure you select high school. Beyond that, middle school should be on this one. So once you've done your grade scale, at the very bottom, you should see visibility settings. You need to hide your overall grade and hide the grading period grades. So check mark those 2. The reason for this is you're not putting 100% of your assignments in Schoology. 100% of your assignments should be in Power Teacher Pro. You want your students to see their overall grade in Power Teacher Pro. So we are turning it off in Schoology so they can be like, but I have an A in Schoology. How do I have a D in my actual gradebook? It's because we need them to go look at Power Teacher Pro because that's where 100% of your grades are. So on grade setup, create your categories, select your grade scale, check mark in visibility settings, the first 2, and click Save Changes. You must hit that Save Changes. If you don't do Save Changes, you're going to have an error later, and you're going to be like, where'd they go? So once again, I did this in my one course with my 4 linked class periods, but if I teach other courses that have different Schoology pages, what I just did here in grade setup, I must do in those courses if I want my assignments to sync to Power Teacher Pro. Okay, so when you are done here, you should see Power School at the very bottom on the left. This is where we need to go next. If this is your first time, it's going to ask you to approve or deny. Please approve. So when you approve, you will probably land on configuration. So this is what configuration looks like for a middle school. This is a teacher who did not change her grading categories in Power Teacher Pro. Let me show you the high school. I might show you the high school if it wants to load. There we go. So here's the high school. There's that formative, there's that summative. So what you need to do is take your created categories in Schoology and tell them where to connect in PowerSchool. So this teacher, she created classwork. So you want to go classwork to classwork. Obviously, you'll want to go project to project, quiz to quiz, test to test. Classwork can only be used once over here in the drop downs in Schoology. If you try to use classwork twice or project twice and hit save, it's going to give you an error. Now notice this teacher also had homework, but there's no homework over here on the right. That's where you can see this ad, and you can have multiple Schoology categories connect to one classwork category. So this is how you can take multiple categories and connect it here. So this is what happened at the high school level, where she only had 2 PowerSchool categories and she couldn't add more. So she created 3 formative categories and connected them here. And then she created 3 summative and connected them there. So right now, I'm going to give you the time to do all of this connecting. I'm also going to ask you to check mark the automatically shortened assignment titles. The reason for this is Power Teacher Pro only accepts assignment titles 50 characters or less. Sometimes in our LMS, we can get creative with our assignment titles and they're more than 50 characters. And if we try to send it to the gradebook, it actually gives an error and that assignment will not sync. So check mark this, and then you're going to connect your sections. And then make sure you hit Save Changes. And you should get a green success at the top. There is that green success to say I did it correctly. Now, some of you might get done really quick, and that's okay. But I want you to know, if you are in a course where you took multiple sections and rolled them up into one page, I want you to notice at the top that you have this hyperlinked section. So this is that teacher's period 1. Well, she still has 2 more periods. Each period that you teach has to be connected to Power Teacher Pro. You use the same grade setup, but you manually have to connect each grade you teach or each period you teach. So we just did period 1. So watch when I switch to her period 3. None of them are configured. I have to configure it and save the changes. So I would go ahead, take the time, get them all connected for your course. And then don't forget, if you're one of those teachers that has multiple courses, multiple pages, what we're doing now, you have to do in each course. If you want to change some of your categories from Power Teacher Pro last year, before you do what we're doing in Schoology, I would definitely come back over to your Power Teacher Pro, clean this up, let it do its syncing tonight, and then tomorrow it should be cleaned up and you should be able to do all of that connecting. So just like earlier when I said the section linking, if you teach a year-long course, you have to do this once a year. If you teach a semester course, you have to do this each semester. And then if you're a quarterly course, you have to do this at the beginning of every quarter. So you have to do your section linking and your gradebook connection at the start of each new roster. So notice we're in the configuration. There's also a tab called Sync Grades. So this is a way to check the status of the assignments you have sent from Schoology to Power Teacher Pro. You can see what assignment you sent, the last time you successfully synced that assignment. Was it successful or was it an error? And then you have the sync option. So the reason we have this is when you sync an assignment to Power Teacher Pro, all it does is create that grading column. It gives you the assignment title, the points, and it assigns it to your rosters. When you start manually entering those grades in Schoology, they do not go to Power Teacher Pro automatically. For your actual grades to go, you have to sync it. So you have to tell it, send my grades to Power Teacher Pro. Power School Learning, when you typed in a grade, it went over to Power Teacher Pro. Not the same with Schoology. You have to tell those grades to go over to Power Teacher Pro. So this is one way to do it. So this is just one way. There's one other way, and that's going to be in your gradebook in Schoology. So every course has a gradebook. This gradebook, like I said, only shows your assignments in Schoology. It will not show your Power Teacher Pro. So here's this teacher's gradebook. She's in her first period, and she's able to go between her different rosters by her class period. So it is able to separate it that way for grading. But notice in this toolbar, the circle with the two arrows. This is how you sync. So if you created an assignment and you did all of its grading, then you would need to hit sync. You can do it daily, you can do it weekly, or you can do it monthly. It's up to you. Just know those grades will not go until you tell it to sync. So there's another part of that we have to talk about. I know a lot of times we would create assignments here, but then we would see over in Power Teacher Pro, there were blanks from our Power School Learning assignments, and we might just start doing the grading in Power Teacher Pro for our LMS assignments. All grading for Schoology assignments has to be done in Schoology. If you grade any Schoology assignments in Power Teacher Pro and hit sync, it's going to override Power Teacher Pro with whatever you have in Schoology. So if you have a student with nothing here in Schoology on an assignment, and you go to Power Teacher Pro and give them an 80%, but then later hit sync in Schoology, that 80% is going to get wiped out back to nothing because you have nothing in Schoology. So this will be a change of mind. All Schoology grading has to be done in Schoology, which that's okay because I will show you a feature that will help with those missing assignments. Which high school, it's easy. You just put in that 40% or NS. So let me get into a gradebook that has grades. So here is that table that got created over in Power Teacher Pro from Schoology. But notice when I grade, there's going to be this little what is that, a flag? This is how you can say they're excused from this assignment, they're incomplete or missing. If you try to type these in over in Power Teacher Pro, and this was blank and you synced it, it's going to wipe out what you did in Power Teacher Pro. So even these 3 categories have to be done over here in Schoology. Something we are recommending is when you create an assignment in Schoology, I would uncheck sync to SIS. I would wait to do it until you are 100% positive that you want that assignment to go to Power Teacher Pro. So I'm going to pretend to add materials. So an assignment, an assessment, an external tool like Turnitin or Pear Deck, and a discussion. Any of those are an assignment that you can send to Power Teacher Pro. Those are things you can grade. So notice when you're in here, there's those categories we had to create to tell it how to connect with Power Teacher Pro. Then you're going to see the sync to SIS. At any point, you can get back into an assignment and sync to SIS. You do not have to make that decision when you create the assignment like we had to in Power School Learning. So you can come back 6 weeks into the quarter and say, okay, I'm ready for this assignment to go to SIS. I decided I want to use it in the gradebook. You can come back and make that change. Let me show it from a course that's rostered to show you how to individually assign. So this is a course that has 6 class periods of the same content that she linked together. So there's that sync SIS telling her grading period. But notice down here, it's showing to all sections. She can give it a date to open and a time. But if she selects here, she can decide which period to show it with. Anytime you're creating content in Schoology, you're going to have this option to start to designate where work goes and when. So she can select 3 periods, and then she can decide the date and time that she wants it to be shown. So like I said, unless you're 100% positive you want this to go to Power Teacher Pro, do not check this. We can come back and do it later. And the final thing I want to show you inside of here is back inside your gradebook. So don't forget the 2 circles with the arrows is how you send your graded assignments over to Power Teacher Pro. But I also want you to notice you have these 3 dots. If you have no assignments, you're not going to see the 3 dots. So that's why I'm in this course. So if I hit the 3 dots, I'm going to see the option for bulk edit. Yes, you can uncheck it if you forgot to and you want it taken out of Power Teacher Pro. The only thing is you still have to go back into Power Teacher Pro and delete it if it's synced over to Power Teacher Pro. But at least you have that option to go back into Schoology and say, stop it, stop it. So this is bulk edit. This is showing me every assignment in my course I created. At one time, I can edit all of my assignments' names, what grading category it needs to go to, its points, whether I want it to have a rubric or a grade scale. I can change its due date. And then look, if I want to, it's the end of the quarter. I'm like, I want to send these assignments right now over to Power School. I can check them and send them right then and there. And then just make sure you hit save changes. I think this is my favorite feature, that I can edit all of my assignments at once. So to get here, I'll show you again. I was in Gradebook in my course. Some of you may not be able to see it because you don't have assignments created. So I'm actually in a sandbox right now. So once you do create at least one assignment, you're going to see these 3 dots. So in between this plus and those 2, what is that, arrows, you're going to see the 3 dots, and that's where you will find bulk edit. which we put this info in the slide deck. It is right here on slide 17, has the bulk edit for you so you can reference it later. On slide 18, we have the new grade scale. If you want to learn more about that, that's the official video from the district. High school, here's some info on your grading. So in Schoology, if you type in a point grade with a percentage of a 23%, okay, so you put in that point value and it actually is a 23%. When it goes from Schoology to Power Teacher Pro, it's going to switch to a 40% in X. The 59 has to be put in as a 59, but if anything else, it will transfer in that switch over to a 40%, which that video talks about it for you on slide 18. So this was a lot of information, and some of you have multiple courses. Slide 8 has typed directions for your gradebook configuration. Slide 2 has the type directions for section linking and the video over the whole process. And then if you go to a new window on Google, you can just type in FWCS integrated. The first thing it finds is our integrated site. So I just typed in FWCS integrated. It's the first thing that pops up. This is where we put all of our resources from our different PLs. There's a whole tab for Schoology. We go back to 101, 102, if you're ready for jazzing it up. And then we have course setup. In here, it has a lot of information for getting ready for school on Monday or even later next week, as students won't have devices those first days. We've also linked our slide decks in here if you happen to not get it. That is a great question about getting your sandbox to your merged courses. So let's say this is my sandbox and I'm ready for it to go. There are two ways to do it. One is to hit options and save this entire course to my resources. Then in my actual courses, so if this was my rostered courses and this was blank, I just hit add materials and import it from my resources. That's one way. You move your whole sandbox to your resources and then you pull it from your resources. Option 2 is I'm happy with my class information. I hit the gear. So I'm grabbing class information and all of the content inside class information. Copy to courses. And then that one folder, I can select any course I need it to go to at once. So you can move the whole course at once to resources and move it, or you can individually move the folders to each of the courses you need it to go to. Yes, exactly, Selman. That is a great example of what to do. If you teach a semester class and it's the end of the semester, I would definitely hit save course to courses or resources, and you can use it again and again as your template. And if some of you have not even finished your sandbox, if you hit resources up here on this black bar, at this point, we have migrated every Power School Learning course for teachers into Schoology, except for 129 pages. So hopefully none of you are one of those 129 pages. But if you look, you're going to start to see PSL bulk import. You might see it more than once. In here, fingers crossed, should be your Power School Learning converted to Schoology for you to grab your content and move it into your courses to use. So here is my page from last year. When I dive into here, there's my welcome page. There's my parent guardian page. All of my content from Power School Learning is here, and I can move it into my courses if I haven't set up my sandbox. So that's all I had for you, and I think Amelia wanted you to use that Zoom link. We are happy to stay around for questions. If you think you have a bigger issue than what we can cover through Zoom, please feel free to reach out to your district technology coordinator, and we would be happy to dive into your courses with you and get you set up and going for this school year. If you are in someone else's sandbox, you just need to reach out to them and they can remove you. And I will show you how to do that first option. Let me get back in the course. Okay, so here's my sandbox. I spent all summer creating it. I got my class information, my parent guardian, my support. I even created a couple units. I have my e-learning ready. I'm ready for all of this to go at once. I have options, save course to resources. Michelle, I think she wanted you all to use the same one. Then you tell it in your resources where you want it to go. I created a 21-22 resources. And then you're just going to save it into your resources, which is like your OneDrive of Schoology. So it's telling me it's being exported. It's kind of big. It won't happen right away. You do get an email to tell you when it has successfully been moved. And then all you have to do is go into your rostered courses. So this is the course I want it to go to. You just select add materials, import from resources, because we got to get into that OneDrive of your Schoology. If you remember, I said I saved it to my 21-22. Right there it is, my sandbox. I'm going to click in there. There's all my folders. So I'm just going to check mark them all. So I got my class, I got my parent. Maybe I don't want this K in first because that's just where I'm kind of building my content. I don't want my students to see, so I'm not going to bring that over. And I'm just going to say import. It's a double import process. I think Schoology just really wants us to make sure that's what we want. And it should be coming, but it's not. Oh, it's being executed because it's such a large file. So that's another one. I will get an email to tell me when it's ready. So yeah, options, save it to resources, get into your course that you want to add it to, add materials, import from resources. Great questions today. Did everybody find that link for Amelia? I don't know if anybody can see, but it's pouring outside. At least out here at Wayne, it's pouring. Nope, that's a document. That's not what I wanted. Here it is. Did Eric beat me to it? Did she want you to go hang out with her on her Zoom, or did she want you to have work time? I don't remember. I don't know. The worst thing is you could just Zoom bomb her. I keep copying it, but it's not coming through. when sections are linked. Yes. That's how it should work. If it's not, then we may not have grabbed all the sections for the person who sent that to me in the chat. Let me see if I can find that code. Oh, it says it's a collaboration time. Copy link. That should be the link. If not, I'll take the fall for Amelia asking where you went. But yeah, as you're getting in there in the next few days trying to play and things are happening, please do not be afraid to reach out. We don't want you to be frustrated. Yep, you're good to go. I'm not going to keep you. You're free to go. I'm here to answer questions if anybody has any. Or I'll make Rick answer them over here.